Diamonds in the rough. NFL Draft Diamonds. Time to shine.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Williams with NFL Draft Diamonds, and we are presented by the Hula Bowl. Today I have with me Erik Sorensen. He's an offensive lineman out of Northern Iowa. Nice to have you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
So yeah, obviously playing there at UNI, kind of played a little bit all across that offensive line, but I mean, I personally feel like you've kind of found your home there at center. But before we get to all that, man, kind of set the stage for us if you don't mind. Tell me where you're from and how you ultimately got there to UNI.
So I'm originally from Waukee, Iowa, right outside of Des Moines. I went to Waukee High School for a couple of years, was actually a 2-year starter on the offensive line at left tackle. Got recruited to UNI, kind of late in my senior year by Jeremiah Johnson, who's the DC at Kent State now. And, we hit it off really well. We had a great relationship. That's kind of ultimately why I chose UNI. And then get up to UNI, redshirt my first year. But during the first year, I actually managed my way to the 2 deep at left tackle, which was kind of crazy being a, true freshman on the 2 deep, but it was awesome because I got to learn from a lot of guys that had a lot of experience that helped me through my career. And then transitioning further into that, my first spring ball, Ryan Clanton, our offensive coordinator and O-line coach, came in, kind of took a lot of us under his wing because we were all the first. We had a big class. There were 7 of us that came in when I was a freshman. And he kind of took all 7 of us and was like, hey, you guys are going to be the future of this program. So we're going to build you guys up. And what's really funny was after spring ball one day, he just took me aside and was like, hey, you might as well just learn how to snap. And then next thing you know, next practice, Coach Farley comes up to me right before we go to team. He goes, hey, you're taking the 2 center today. And I was in shock. My first instinct was just not roll the ball back there. Just get it back to the quarterback and just go from there.
Oh yeah, obviously, man, you definitely don't want to roll that ball back there. Definitely don't want to snap it over his head either. So you kind of have to find that perfect snap. But obviously, you've adjusted yourself well to that position. Let's take just a step back, if you don't mind. Obviously, you said that you went to, what is it, Waukee High School?
Yep, Waukee High School
in Iowa. Did you participate in any other sports besides football back in those times?
I was just a thrower on our track and field team. Our offensive coordinator for high school was the head track coach, so he made all the offensive guys go out for track. Otherwise, you wouldn't start.
Gotcha. So you think that helped you at all as a football player?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it definitely helped with my footwork and my explosiveness. I mean, I was varsity shot putter for 2 years, so definitely getting that hip roll from the shot put and all the footwork that goes into it was really helpful for me as a collegiate football player.
Gotcha. So, I mean, of the guys that I have talked to, I mean, obviously, if you can participate in another sport, I always encourage it. There are some coaches that don't necessarily allow their players to do that. But glad that you were able to do that. Do want to just kind of get your thoughts on, obviously, the fact that you did commit to the game of this game of football. So, why do you love the game of football so much?
It's been kind of in my DNA for a while. My dad played college football at UNI for a year, actually. My mom played college sports. And growing up, I had a younger brother who was 15 months younger. So we're a really competitive family and we're really into sports. It also helped that I was 6'6" in high school. So I definitely had the frame to play college football. And the other aspects off the field, having a competitive family, coming from an athletic background really kind of guided me into that direction of playing college football.
Gotcha. So, obviously a competitor, like, you obviously want to go out there and, be the winner at all the things that you can and can't do. So, let's talk about you and I. So, what do you feel makes that institution, so great? So can you talk about it for a moment?
The one thing that comes to my mind when I think of UNI is tradition. I mean, it's a great program. I mean, I think we've been in 18 playoffs in the FCS. We have a ton of All-Americans, a ton of, draft picks, a ton of guys playing the NFL, a lot of conference titles. And give out a lot of credit to Coach Farley. Coach Farley has done a great job since he's been there. I mean, I've seen it with when I was a freshman with all the seniors that were there, and then now finally being that senior that graduated. It was nice to. I mean, he builds tradition into you. No matter how he gets it done. If you come in your first day, or you come in as a fifth year transfer, he's going to build that tradition into you one way or another.
Gotcha. And what are you doing there as a student? I'm assuming you've already graduated. What's your status on that front?
I actually am getting my master's in biology right now. So I have one more semester up. I'll graduate in May with that, but I got my bachelor's back in 2021.
Interesting. So obviously, been in a lot of classrooms. What's been your toughest class to date?
Probably organic chemistry. Organic chemistry was a lot. We draw a lot of hexagons, a lot of, random stuff like that. And it's just, there's a lot of reactions you have to memorize. So I'd say that's by far my hardest class.
Interesting. Well, I mean, obviously you've been able to, do well, got your bachelor's, working on your master's, which is great. Let's go ahead and talk about your guys' offense, there. So, like you mentioned, I mean, you guys have had some wonderful draft picks over the past couple seasons. I mean, damn, even going back to a couple of years ago, man, like is Spencer Brown coming out of there going crazy? Trevor Benning, who's, just one nasty son of a gun. You don't want to be in his way. But certainly a great program. How would you define your guys' offense and your role in that offense?
This year, our offense kind of built an identity. And thanks to Coach Buddy Reeder, who came in from Eastern Washington and Utah State, we got to our first day of camp and he had 5 pillars to our offense. He goes, we're going to have a downhill violent run game. We're going to have an explosive passing attack. We're going to be creative. We're going to have an elite level quarterback, and we're going to be all about the football. And that's what we've been about this whole season was, I said it in one of our preseason interviews. If we're going to run the ball for 3 yards a carry and we have 60 carries a game, that's how we're going to win the game. Or if we're going to have, 8 carries and, 60 pass attempts, we're going to win that way too. So it's just finding the balance of having all 5 of those pillars come into play when you play the game.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like you're mentioning, kind of need to be prepared one way or the other, depending on your opponent, of course, how to adjust your offensive, scheme so that you can, really excel. So, one of the things that I personally feel about you that really separates you as a prospect is obviously your size, but of course, also your versatility, being a person who has played multiple positions on that offensive line, could play multiple positions on that offensive line. Would you concur? What do you feel is like one of your better attributes as a player?
I would say, obviously, my versatility is probably one of my better attributes, simply because, I have 31 starts in my career, 4 at guard, the rest at center. I've played all 5 positions in a game, in snaps in a game before, which I don't think a lot of people have done that, especially at UNI. And I say the next thing I would say is I picked up on our offense probably day one, and I was teaching it to other starters while we were out there in the middle of camp. Like, hey, this is what we do when this happens. It's a lot of the calls through the O-line run through the center. And that's what my biggest responsibility was. Like, I'm not going to get a call wrong ever. That's what I was going to pride myself on, not missing a call, but I'll be fine if I, get beat by technique once in a while, but I won't have that mental error.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, one thing about being the guy that is literally the first to touch the ball in every single play is a lot of people are kind of literally drawn to you as even a leader.
Yeah,
do you see yourself as a leader? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and that was, it was a reflection of what my teammates thought of me too. I was voted captain in the preseason, which was really awesome. I mean, I definitely was not expecting that, because I'm not a big talker when it comes to, the whole team. I'm not going to give you a rah-rah speech pregame, but I'll pull you aside one-on-one, have that conversation with you and just, encourage you. And I think that's what ultimately got me that captain, was my ability to have, individual or small group conversations with guys and connect with them on a personal level.
Well, Erik, I mean, so far I feel like you're a fairly good communicator. So, doing fairly well so far. So, hey, obviously had a lot of great moments there. Really since you've been there, a lot of wonderful games that you've been a part of. Can you kind of walk me through maybe one or two of those moments?
Oh yeah, I would say, by far one of my favorite games was last year in the Dome when SIU came in. They were number 3 in the nation, and we were down, I think, 13-6 at half, and ended up coming back. We put up 14 points in the fourth quarter or the third quarter to take the lead, and ended up winning 23-16. And that was, we came out in the second half, and I think we maybe had 10 pass attempts. We ran the ball up and down the field on them, and what happened in the third quarter was our starting right guard got hurt, so we had a guy who has no game experience come in the game, play right guard, who's normally a tackle, and he's like, "What do I do? Like, how do I do this?" It's like, "Hey, we'll get you through this. You just got to come off the ball." And that's exactly what he did. And we came off. We finished that game, I think, with over 250 rushing yards just because of that, the second half alone. But I would say that's probably one of the better highlights of my career.
Definitely like one of those real moments. It's almost like being a part of like a movie. You know what I mean? You know, you're
100%, yeah.
you're out there and the backup comes in. He's like, okay, and then just
Yeah,
kind
he
of like,
just
goes right into it. So,
he gave you those big eyes right before he came, and he's like, I was like, "Hey, you're all right. It's gonna be okay. I mean, you're just fine."
well, I mean, but that's good though. I mean, you figure, you as one of the leaders of your offensive line, kind of looking at your teammate, helping him along the way, and just kind of guiding that whole offensive unit, being the guy who first touches the ball. Um, so yeah, I mean, a lot of great moments there. I know. Once again, I mean, I got to mention this. You and I very well coached program, playing in practically the most difficult conference in the FCS, against some of the top quality competition. For some of the people who don't know about your competition, man, talk to me about some of the dudes that you match up with on a regular basis.
You know, I obviously our conference is one of the toughest. NDSU is the one that comes to my mind. They've won, I think, the last 9 out of 11 national titles at the FCS level. And the Missouri Valley has put a team in the national title game the past 15 years or so every year, which is just, I think, is crazy because that's the competition you play on any Saturday. It's not, Saturday in December. It's a Saturday in September when you have NDSU coming to the Dome, or you're going to the Dyke House up in South Dakota State. So, and obviously the competition at and the FCS is, I think it's just as good because I've gone against NFL draft picks. Missouri State's I think Erik Johnson last year, he got drafted to
Mhm.
the Colts 5th round. I think Illinois or Iowa State last year, their DN got drafted pretty high to the Broncos as well, and I blocked him. And we obviously got guys like Vandenberg for Illinois State this year, who was a menace on the outside. Caleb Sanders on the inside for South Dakota State, who was pretty good. And obviously, guys at our own facility like Jared Brinkman, who just won the CFL championship. He's a two-time MVC Defensive Player of the Year, and I had to block him every day in practice. So he pushed me to be better, and I pushed him to be better, which was the best part about going against great competition, is that you push each other.
Yeah, actually, Brinkman was really where I was going, quite honestly, because I remember sitting down talking to him last season, a guy who I knew is very hungry, motivated, to get to the next level, wanting to win that championship. Obviously, did it in the CFL, but hey, obviously, a great accomplishment for him. Um,
Absolutely.
and facing him on a regular basis, who I know has like one hell of a fight in him, man. Like, you definitely don't want to have to, face him in an alley. But yeah, certainly a guy who I know has really gotten you to where you're at today. So um, great. So let's take a moment. I want to not talk football for a few minutes. So who is this Erik Sorensen guy outside of a football player? Can you talk to me about you, whether it's your likes, dislikes, hobbies, or anything you got going on in your life that you want to share?
I would say I'm pretty down to earth. I'm a big family guy. I love spending time with, I mean, that's what I've been doing all week. I've been hanging out with my entire family since we haven't been playing football. My sister's birthday is actually today, so we're going to go out to dinner later. I just, down to earth, very humble, very kind. everyone you talk to says, "Oh, here comes Erik." I light up a room when I go in there just because that's how I want to carry myself. I don't want to be the guy that's always negative. I want to be the guy that's going to bring energy to people because at some point I'm going to need the energy back. And if I put enough energy into people, they're going to give some back to me. And that's how, at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. And I try to build as many relationships as I can in a positive light for me because that's who I am. And I want to be the guy that can bring energy to a room.
Nice, nice. Let's try and get a little bit more for some people. So I'm gonna just throw you some random questions. Uh, you have a favorite movie?
I would say anything Avengers or Marvel. I'm a big Marvel nerd. I mean, obviously being a biology guy, I'm a pretty big nerd in that aspect, but when it comes out of the classroom and off the field, I love sitting and I love watching Marvel movies. Just that whole dynamic that they've created. I think it's awesome.
Gotcha. So a lot of people in the Marvel universe. Is there maybe one of those guys there in the Marvel universe that you identify with or want to be?
I obviously I got to identify as Hulk because of my sheer size, but if anyone I could be, it'd be Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange is that's that takes a lot of skill, and being an offensive lineman is a very skillful position. So I think learning the mystic arts or whatever he does is pretty cool.
I don't know, maybe you're Smart Hulk. You know how it like early on you have a Hulk with like no brain, and then like
Yep.
later, you have the Hulk who's, you know, doing like these calculations and
Oh
crap.
yeah.
So, and that's I guess that's more or less who you are at this stage. But uh, a kind guy, which hopefully is not so kind when he's on the
Yeah.
off when
It's
he's out there
on
on
the
the
field,
football
it's a
field.
different mentality.
Yeah, I want you to be mean as hell, like the
Oh
Hulk.
yeah.
So, um, hey, talk to me about your hometown, man. If I were to come visit you in your hometown, what would we do, man? Where would we go? Would it be that one restaurant you're headed to later today?
That's the beauty about Waukee. I graduated with 580 people in my class. So, I went to college with the guys that have, one stoplight towns. Well, there's three stoplights to get out of my neighborhood. So it's a completely different walk of life. And then down here it's massive down here. So if you came to Waukee, we would do anything you want to do. There's a mall about 10 minutes away, a music park 20 minutes away. We have a public pool. We got everything. Ton of restaurants that are all really good food down here.
Gotcha. What is that one restaurant for you, man? Like, do you have like a favorite restaurant in your area?
Oh, it is Jethro's Jambalaya and Barbecue. Oh, they have the best food ever. It's the ESPN famous Emmenecker challenge. I think only like three people have ever done it before. And that's 5 pounds of food. And I've never tried it. I don't want to try it. That's too much food. But every time I see that come out on a plate, it looks damn good.
Well, I mean, you're sitting at about what 6'6", 315.
Yep.
So you don't want to get yourself too big.
Yeah.
So obviously yeah, I mean, I think that you're at a perfect size right now. Eating maybe one of those, maybe that's like a bucket list thing. I don't know.
Maybe later in life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey man, nice to kind of, get to know you a little bit off the field. Dude, I know that there's been a lot of people that has kind of poured into you over the years. Is there maybe one particular lesson that you've learned from one of those coaches that you want to share with us right now?
My biggest lesson is probably that day in spring ball. I was petrified to go in, but look where it landed me. It landed me at, a 31 game career starts, a shot at the next level, playing center, playing position. I wasn't recruited to play. I was recruited to play tackle. But next, I come in and I excel well at center. So I would say the biggest thing is if you get an obstacle in front of you, just attack it face on because there's no other way through it. There's only one way. You got to go right through it. You can't go around it.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, again, we've talked about your guys' coaching staff, and knowing how to mold their guys into really NFL quality talent. And so I know that they've positioned you to really get to the next level. So I mean, that's kind of what we have to close things up with, man. I mean, I know that there are some scouts that are looking at you, that are paying attention to you, and you have an opportunity at the next level. So I want you to talk to them and give them your pitch as to why you need to be drafted and be a part of their program. So go ahead and close us out with that.
If I just have to say that I think I'm a great football player. I'm very versatile. I'm really smart. And at the end of the day, it comes out how you produce on the field. And I felt like I've produced very well on the field. I've produced at multiple spots. I've multiple starts. I've helped guys get to where they are today. Trevor Penning, I'm not going to take any credit because Trevor is a great, great player. But Trevor, had to know which way to slide sometimes, had to know which way to go on some plays. And every time they had questions, I knew the answers for it. But I would say just because I think I'm a great football player, and that's why I think I should go.
So not to get on this too much because this is a little tangent that's very late, but do you see yourself as a coach, like, down the line, like maybe like 15 years from now?
If the opportunity presents itself, I think I'd love to get back into football. I think I do have a great offensive mind. There was multiple conversations this year with Coach Reeder and Coach Clayton where they'd pull me in the office and say, hey, what do you see out here? What do you like? Even at halftime, we make adjustments. They're always asking me and our quarterback, Theo Day, what do you guys see? What do you guys like out there? And then, we go out in the second half and those plays that me and Theo liked get ran and, they're going for 8 yards a carry, maybe 15 yards pass. So I definitely do think I have an offensive mind where I could coach one day.
Nice. Well, obviously, before you get there, you're going to get your opportunity at the next level. Erik, I do wish you the very best of luck in that whole process. Appreciate the interview. All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Once again, we have with us Erik Sorensen. He's a center out of Northern Iowa. Definitely check him out.